Hi and welcome to the 8th video in this series. In this video we're going to demonstrate how to use the other type of selectors. Selectors such as IDs, classes, and descendant selectors. Now from the previous videos you can see right here that this is an example of an element selector. But we can equally select this element by the use of either an ID or a class. How element selectors could work great. The problem with element selectors is that if we have this div and then we have multiple divs on the same page, then that means that the style that we write here would affect all the other divs on the page, and I tell you that is not something that you want. So you should try as much as possible to stay away from element selectors as you can. So I'm just going to go ahead and then clean this and identify this uniquely by appending an ID to the beginning tag, and then I'll give this ID a name of, say, my first div. Now you do not have to necessarily use the underscores, but for the purpose of easy reading I normally use underscore to separate my words when even naming variables in programming. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, head back to the CSS document, and then I'm going to grab it this way and then change some properties of the element. Say first the font size of the element. I'm going to set this to 200 pixel and try to refresh my browser. As you can see that upon refresh the font size of the element has not changed, and that is because we made a problem with the selection. We are selecting as an element and not as an ID. To make this an ID, all we have to do is to append a hashtag in front of it this way. Get back to the document and then perform the refresh. And this way we have it. Now, one thing to know about ID selectors is that the ID that we give to this right here can be unique to only that thing. Okay, we cannot repeat that ID anywhere or give it to a different element, meaning that this style can only be applied to this right here. What if we want to give this style to more than one element on the page? That calls for a different type of selector known as the class selector. So to demonstrate a class selector, let's just go ahead and input more divs on the page. My second div, I'm going to copy this, repeat it a few times and change the inscription, say my third and fourth div. This way when I head back to my browser and refresh, as we can see that these two things here do not have these few divs do not have any style yet. So even before we do the class selection, let me just go ahead and give them the same ID and see what happens. So while it's looking like it's working fine, this is not technically approved and you are not supposed to do that. So let's just get back to the class selection. Now to use a class, all that you have to begin with is the class keyword this way, and then you name this uniquely, say div class. This is just an example. You give it the name that fits best the class that you're declaring. So I'm just going to copy this class name here, and then I'm going to select the class this way, and then I'll change the color of all elements that belong to the same class. Say I'm changing the color to red. Now when we head back to the browser and perform a refresh, we can see that the color has not changed, right? And that is because we have a problem with the class selection. Classes begin with full stops or periods. So this time that we fixed the period, let's just go ahead and refresh the browser. Okay, as we can see that the class or this very element has changed its color, we can equally go ahead and then copy the class and give it to all the other elements that we want them to have the same style. Alright, so as we can see, all elements that belong to this class have the same color. Now one thing you should know is to never repeat the same identification for more than one element. It will give you problems as you go along, even though it shows that it's some way somehow working. Use class to style elements that you want them to have the same style. Now that we've seen how to select by element name, ID, and class, I want us to take a look at what a descendant selector is. So first of all that I'm going to do is to clean this and then begin with my divs again. ID, first div. Then inside this div, I want to declare something like a paragraph. And I'm going to copy this whole thing right here. And I'm going to repeat it once more. This way, I'll call this my second div. But then I'm just going to leave this paragraph right where it is. So first of all, let me give this paragraph a content, say I am the first paragraph, or the first P. Then I'm going to give this paragraph a name or a content, say I am the second paragraph. Now let's head back to our browser and perform a refresh. As we can see, we have two paragraphs here, first paragraph and second paragraph. When we head back to the CSS section of our document, we can perform descendant selecting of this first paragraph and style it with different styles, whereas this paragraph will remain untouched. So let's see how we can do that. First of all, we're going to grab the first div by its ID this way. Then down one level, we are going to search for the paragraphs inside that div. So as we can see, there is a div called first div. Then we have a paragraph in it. If you remember from element selectors, under normal circumstance, if this was not a descendant selection, you can see that all the P's on the page should be changing per the style that we will be describing here. But see what happens when we change the font size. Upon refresh, we can see that the second P has not changed, but the first P has changed, and that is because the second P does not belong to the first div, or is not a child of the first div. So if we want to go ahead and select the second paragraph too, what we have to do is to select the second div, okay, in this case, and do it this way, and then we're going to change this to second div. Then the paragraph that is a descendant of the second div, and we're going to change its font size to something that is even smaller than the first one, say 100 pixel, and we can see the difference right here. Okay, so as we can see, that descendant way of selecting works. Now there are more advanced ways of selecting an element by the use of pseudo classes and all that, but trust me, we do not need that in this course. We are not going to use it in the development of the footer, so it is not important to us in this course. So given that we've studied some basic ways of selecting in CSS, I'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.